All right, guys, welcome to another episode of SideQuest Podcast, the unofficial podcast of Fitocracy. And this is a huge episode. This is episode number 50. That's right, 50 episodes since October. To all of you out there who have listened and subscribed and left reviews, I want to say thank you. To those who have followed me on Twitter and on Facebook as well, thank you so much for keeping up and listening in to all of these episodes. But if you're new and this is your first episode, you can follow me on Twitter at SideQuestFM, on Instagram as well at SideQuestFM. You can head over to Facebook and you can find SideQuest Podcast by just searching in the bar up at the top. Like the page there and you'll get updates on all the episodes as they come out. Or head over to iTunes. Over there you can subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. When you do that, that helps us move up the charts. And when you subscribe, it'll come straight into your inbox at 6 a.m. on Monday morning Eastern Standard Time, so you don't have to look for it every week once you subscribe. I have a great guest for you today. He is basically the one person everyone in the fitness industry sort of goes to when they need advice or they're looking for good resources. He's a legend, honestly. He started the Personal Trainer Development Center, developed it to help personal trainers get more knowledge, get better access to coaches out there, and to grow and learn and become the best that they can. The one and the only, Jon Goodman. Jon, welcome to the show.
And I feel like I kind of threw you off there because when you were celebrating your 50th podcast, I gave myself a little party hat using the
I saw that.
And so I've got a party hat and I'm celebrating with you.
I don't even know how to do that in Google Hangouts, but I'm glad that you found out, and that's hilarious. So please keep it the whole time.
We're going to keep this the whole time.
Well, Jon, for people who don't know, anything about you, maybe they're new to the show or new to listening to the coaches and trainers that come on. Tell the world a little bit about who you might be and kind of how you got into it, and then we'll go into a little more of the questions I have.
Sure. I was a personal trainer for 9 years. I have a kinesiology degree. I trained in university, and I realized after about 5 years full-time training that I'd reached what the top of the, I guess, superficial training industry could reach. My next logical step would have been to open up a gym. I was full with clients. I was working like 14-hour days. I was earning a salary. I was earning extra money to give my clients to give my overload of clients to other trainers and stuff like that. Like there was just nowhere else for me to go, and so I was over busy and not that happy, and decided to write a book for some reason because I thought it was going to be easy. It wasn't easy. But the book came out. It's called Ignite the Fire. It was for trainers, and it started to do really well. And I built the Personal Trainer Development Center, which is now a large collaborative site for trainers off of the heels of that book. And the rest is kind of history. It kind of just spiraled out of control, and then I went and grabbed it and tried to control it.
Well, for anyone who's never heard of Rain the Fire, or maybe you are new to all of this, it is a fantastic resource. I have basically just barreled through it this summer. That and your audiobook, by the way. Mm-hmm. Every single one of the books that you wrote or mentioned in there, I bought on Amazon like that day. And I've plowed through one, and I'm plowing through What Comes First, Cardio or Weights.
Cool.
I really love
it.
Yeah, I really love it because I'm like, this answers some really cool questions that like you get all the time.
And a cool back end story of that. So when I had first written the original draft of Ignite, I guess. I mean, it was a crappy book at that point, but it was the original draft before any editing. And Alex was a reporter at the local newspaper in Toronto, and I reached out to him. I saw that he was putting out a book pretty soon, and I reached out to him out of the blue. We didn't know each other, and we went for coffee, and he invited me to the book launch to that book, and we became friends. And he was actually like the first real, I guess, writer, editor, whatever you want to call it, that became a friend of mine in the industry. A win, and really helped me through some of the initial stages of getting that thing published. So kind of a cool connection. Alex is a pretty good dude.
Yeah, cool. So you started the Personal Trainer Development Center, which I use for resources all the time with clients, and I know everyone else in the world does. And and you've kind of become the go-to guy that people go to. But do you, and you mention it in the book a little bit, but do you remember that moment when you realized you wanted to start a PDC, and what spurred that?
It's funny. I wish I could distill it back. I mean, the site now has taken on kind of a image that I never anticipated. Like, it was never this master plan to build a site and
Right.
travel the world each year, and like I didn't even know that it existed. I was like a lot of other people. I didn't know that there were ways to make money on the internet outside of advertising. And now, many years later, I'm making a fair amount of money on the internet, and I've never hosted an advertisement in my life. So things have kind of gone a different direction, I guess. There wasn't a moment. I knew when I was hiring trainers and mentoring and training a lot of trainers that there was an information gap, and that led to me really dig into more the relationship side of the industry and less like this is the best workout to give, and more how do you get your client to want to do the workout. And then I figured out pretty quickly that I only had so many good ideas, and there was a lot of other people who had a couple good ideas, and so with the site I said, well, why don't I just bring everybody's good idea under one roof as opposed to just keep talking about stuff myself.
Okay. All right. So you mentioned relationships, and I want to touch on that because you're kind of like the king, like, of building relationships, and you talk about it in your book all the time, and I think that's one thing I struggle with, and I know a lot of trainers struggle with. You know, we're excited to get a client, and we want to get them in the gym and get them in shape and
Sure.
do the work that we want to do, but we kind of forget that there's also a relationship side to it. And I reached out. I mentioned that I reached out to a few friends and colleagues, some people that were at the fitness summit in Kansas City, and one of them was Nick Sorrell, and he posted. He was like, the thing about that really blew me away about Jon is I just started talking to him, and he called me by name. Like, he knew my name out of nowhere. And I was like, oh, he goes, I literally had the amount of respect I had for that man went
Right.
through the roof at that moment.
Right.
So how do you do it? Like, you separate yourself apart from everyone because you're so good at really understanding and building relationships and how to to connect with people and remembering names. So how do you do it? What's your secret to that?
Well, remember,
Or is there a secret?
I'll tell you what the kind of trick is. Remembering names is remembering names. I mean, you got to remember people's names.
Yeah.
If you meet somebody, there's no excuse not to know their name. Even in the gym, I used to keep a spreadsheet of all of my clients and all the members, and every time that I'd meet somebody, I'd put their name on this spreadsheet. I'd put whatever important piece of information about them that I just learned on this spreadsheet. And so if I saw somebody walk into the gym and I couldn't quite remember their name, or I remembered their name and I couldn't remember anything about them, I'd run to the office before they had a chance to walk through the gym. I'd open up my spreadsheet, I'd pop it open, I'd be like, oh yeah, wife's name, kid's having a bar mitzvah soon, events coming up, whatever, and then I could open and say, hey, how's the planning for your kid's bar mitzvah going? And so that was a trick to remember important information, but I think the most important thing to keep in mind here is that there are things that you can do that have disproportionately large effects on how people view you. So I'll give you the most simple example. When it's somebody's birthday, everybody wishes them happy birthday on Facebook.
Right.
That is the absolute worst time to reach out to somebody. Like, why would you wait until the time when somebody is being reached out to by hundreds of others to try to say something to them? Why not randomly say hi? It's as easy as going to their website, if they have a website or whatever it is, reading the first 2 lines of their blog, figure out what they're up to, and write on their Facebook wall on a random day that you noticed what they were doing. And all of a sudden now, the exact same action, and you're going to get a disproportionately large result. The same thing, don't buy a girl flowers on Valentine's Day. I mean, probably do that too. Buy her flowers on a random Tuesday. And when it comes to relationship building, there are things that you can do that have disproportionately large results. If you're going to a conference, for example, the Fitness Summit, and there's a Facebook group of other people that are attending that summit, take a half an hour, research all of them, find one important thing about these people, write it on cue cards, and before you walk into that room, look over your cue cards. And now all of a sudden, you've got a warm introduction and a reason for them to remember you as opposed to somebody else. I mean, it's just showing that you care. But as I said, it's these things that have this disproportionately large benefit for either the same or less effort.
Okay. So if there's, I love the spreadsheet idea, why do you think that? All right, in your opinion, uh, why do you think a lot of young trainers sort of struggle with, like, we do care, but why do we struggle with going that extra mile? Like, are we not determined enough? Are we? Because I'll
You
be
don't think
honest,
about
like
it.
I
No,
suck
you
with
don't think
names.
about it. Yeah, it's you don't think about it. It's as simple as that. It, there are so many things that you think that you should be doing that you probably shouldn't be doing. I mean, it's focus. It's
Yeah.
what is the most important thing right now when you're trying to build relationships and build a clientele in a gym. The most important thing is that you become A, the most popular person in that gym, and two, you appear to be busy. Nothing else matters. Even the skill level and the results that you get with your clientele, I would argue, and a lot of people would agree with me, that that's actually tertiary to the first 2 points in terms of just you getting busy with clients. And so, what should your focus be on? Should your focus be on reading and becoming the best trainer ever when you're probably technically good enough to get results that your clients would be happy with? Or is your time better spent being on the gym floor, chatting people up all of the time? Do a 5-hour workout, for God's sake. Just be on the floor doing something and chatting with people, and then remember their names. Write down their name on the back of a clipboard, transfer it to your spreadsheet. I mean, it's not hard. At our gym, we had people who swiped in with their card every time they came into the gym. If you didn't know somebody's name, you go to the computer system, you log on, you see who swiped in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not hard, it's just the extra 2 seconds that nobody else will do that you should do.
I like that.
And
Okay.
again, it's this disproportionate results for the same effort.
Right. So you mentioned as you were talking, you mentioned focus, and I actually had a great question on staying on focus. Because you're right, like you're in the gym, you're there with people, and you want to become the best, and you want to read everything, and you want to get to know clients, and you want to check up on things online, or doing this or doing that, and your focus is just it's spread thin.
Sure.
So with what you're doing now, what tools or tricks have you found to keep your focus on the focus of your business and the personal trainer development center?
Well, I actually have 3 businesses. I go in multiple products for each business, so it's a good question. The most important thing that I do is I make sure that I spend at least 30 minutes, if not an hour or two a day, on a proactive activity, i.e. the next book, whatever project we've got going on the go. I make sure that every single day I pick away at it, right? And that is uninterrupted time. Generally, it's first thing in the morning because that's my best time of the day. Beyond that, I know that I've done something to move forward with my business. And so that's the most important focus thing. The other bit of it is really just I separate myself from the world for months on end. I mean, people who follow me know that I've spent the last 3 winters away. And in this winter, again, I'm going to be away in Europe and then Costa Rica, it's looking like. And the reason for that is I separate myself from the world that I know because it's the only way that I know of to be able to look at the ecosystem that I'm now a part of as an outsider looking in. And I think that's very important, both physically but also metaphorically. If you're too close to something, you can't see everything else around it.
Yeah.
I always say, I wrote about this in an article recently, if you're right up to a tree, all you can see is the bark. If you take a few steps back, you can see a bunch of trees. If you walk up the mountain that looks over the valley that the tree sits in, you can see an entire ecosystem of streams and paths, and all of a sudden now, you can figure out a better way to get to that tree. You can figure out other things that are going on. And so I think it's very important, get yourself out of your head, get yourself out of your world. To go for a long walk with no music, eliminate all distractions, and aim to look at things as an outsider. And you'll start to see very quickly what matters and what doesn't.
I like that. And that kind of ties into there. So you mentioned traveling around the world, and I have a question on that. We'll come to that. We'll come back to that later. Sure. But you mentioned, getting away from it, and you mentioned this in Rain the Fire. Ignite the fire, not rain the fire.
Rain the fire. I'm
Rain,
just gonna do like a bunch of fire books. It's funny because if you search Ignite the Fire on Amazon, you get all these like you see my book, and then you get all these like fire building kits and like kindling and everything else. It's like, God, I should have named this book something. I'm happy with the name, but if I had to do it again, I would absolutely name it something different.
well, in the book you mentioned it, and you just mentioned, the last 3 years you've kind of gotten out for the winter. I know winter can be harsh there in Canada,
Yeah.
and you're like, let's go somewhere warmer. I like it. And that lifestyle I think has been pretty inspiring to a lot of people in the online world, myself included. But you mentioned getting away from it and pulling back from the tree so that you can see more than just the bark. And you mentioned in the book that you ran away to Hawaii and doing something that I have planned to do all summer, and I believe I'm going to have the chance to do it tomorrow. And I have to admit, I'm honestly like terrified. I'm really terrified to do this. But you mentioned that you went out with no technology, no nothing, and just were alone with your thoughts. So
It's a
why did
petrifying experience. I still do it. It's petrifying. Yeah.
so why do you are you running away to get away from the process and the industry to better understand it? And what do you typically find, or what did you find in Hawaii that you didn't know about yourself when you went out and had your Thoreau moment?
I learned more about myself and what I wanted out of life and out of business. I mean, much of the travel that I've done, put it this way, if I was a profit maximizer and a business maximizer, I would move to New York City for a year. I mean, there's no question.
Yeah.
That would be the right move for me from a business standpoint. But I'm not. I'm going to Costa Rica to live in the middle of nowhere for 5 months. Right, and from a business standpoint, that's kind of like poison. It's kind of a recipe for stagnation. But what I found from doing these kind of getaways, I guess, is that what it's allowed me to do is see things a lot differently than other people, and understand what I want out of the business, and clarify my vision for the business a lot better. And the result has been just insane growth. And it's because I've been able to approach situations differently from others. I mean, I wish there was a more kind of actionable way to describe the process, but I don't think there is. I think there's got to be a lot of personal growth in order for there to be business growth for anybody who's kind of an entrepreneur, a sole entrepreneur, small business owner. And so there isn't really any actionable bits that I can give you. I mean, it's just get out with a journal and do free writing. I mean, I do that still once, twice a week, and you just sit by yourself, no music, no nothing, where it's quiet, and you just write everything you're thinking about. And you start writing out your first line, because a blank piece of paper sucks. Start with your first line, like, I don't know what to write about, so I'm just going to write. And all of a sudden your brain starts churning in this, like, really wacky way, and
Yeah.
you'll kind of think for a second, you'll snap out of it, and you'll be like, what the hell is going on? But the minute you start writing things down, your brain just starts working. And all of a sudden now you start making sense of all the stuff. You're like, I saw a girl yesterday. It was interesting that she was doing this. And you'll start to analyze things that you see and figure out just how intelligent they actually were, or how what you saw can be applied to something else. For example, we were walking down the street after a workout, my girlfriend and I, and somebody in the front of a store asked us, there were two girls in front of a store, and they asked us if we wanted a sample of tiramisu. We said sure. We took the sample, and tiramisu was kind of messy, so we needed a utensil. The other girl said, here's a fork, or here's a spoon. And she gave me a metal spoon, and I started to walk away, because you would always walk away when you get a sample. I mean, you wouldn't even pay attention to who the person is or what the store is, right?
Yeah.
But it's a metal spoon. So I had to stay, and now I'm eating this thing, and now I had to ask her about her restaurant. Right? And so I looked at that and I was just like, shit, like, I don't think they did that on purpose, but that was the one thing that they could have done to get the exact benefit from what they were doing, was give me a metal spoon.
Yeah.
And when you start taking the time to really analyze what happens afterwards, you start to see things like that happen every day, and you're like, well, how can I, in my business or my life with my clients, whatever it is, how can I do that one little thing that takes no extra effort that is going to have disproportionate benefit? And you start to recognize those things.
I'm really like taken by that mental image of just like of using a metal spoon, like, because you're right, they probably didn't think about it, but for you, you're like, this just gave me inspiration for my whole business.
For me, I was just like, damn, that was smart. But then, and I mean, it was okay. So the rest of the story is it was a gluten-free vegan Italian restaurant. That's not a thing. Italian food isn't
Isn't gluten free.
lentils. Gnocchi isn't lentils wrapped in lettuce. But we walked in and we paid $34 for like nothing, and then we walked away, and it was all because they gave us a metal spoon.
Huh.
It
Okay.
had nothing to do with how good the food was. It had nothing to do with how much the girls in front of the thing, how short their skirts were or whatever, right?
Right.
It it was that one little thing that they did that was just that one little like switch that they needed to flip.
So when it comes to something like that, like in terms of marketing, and doing it for business, like what
hmm
is what's one area that I guess like even fitness coaches could kind of look at? Because Travis Pollan actually asked a good question, and his question was, should newbies in the fitness world, hire a business coach if they have little experience in business? Well, do you need a bunch of business experience, or do you just need to like create value that goes out?
I don't think a newbie should hire a business coach for no other reason than a newbie wouldn't know what type of business coach to hire.
Right.
And as a result, they're probably going to get scammed, which unfortunately happens too often in the fitness industry. I mean, I've never hired a mentor. I've never hired expense. That's not true. I hired somebody one time for 3 hours for $1,000 an hour. The first 4 minutes of it were valuable. The rest of it wasn't. But that first 4 minutes made me about $50,000. So there's something to that. But the but that's what a good business coach will do, right? They won't give you everything. They will just fix up that one little problem that you're having.
Right.
And give you that one piece of information that makes you a lot of money. I think it's more important for somebody new in the fitness industry or somebody new in any industry to really learn how to think about business versus learning how to apply the techniques, because the techniques are the techniques. If you don't know why you're doing them, then it doesn't really matter what you're applying. And so I would say go out and read books like Thinking Fast and Slow by Kahneman. Go out and read books like Stumbling on Happiness by Daniel Gilbert. And what these books will do is they will teach you how to think about business. They will teach you how to think about customers and the importance of the customer's state of awareness when you're building something. Get in their heads. Get out of your head. And then from there you can start, sure, once you already have something and you need it to work a little bit more efficiently or something, that's where a business coach might come in and be handy. But a business coach shouldn't take you from start to finish. You've got to do a lot of that back end work. You've got to learn how to think.
I agree. I was actually chatting with some people this morning about that side of things, and Facebook and social and all, and it's so weird and different. And I've been so focused on working on the podcast and creating content and stuff on the blog, because my goal is to be on the Sunday, personal trainer develop. That's it. I just one time. I just want to like wake up Sunday morning and see
Right.
one of my articles there, and
Right.
then just fist pump and get back to working. But
But here's the funniest thing: once you're there, you like the funniest thing about goal setting like that, right? Is that once you're there, you'll be like, oh shit, now I just want to win my category. And then you win the category of that list, and you're just like, oh shit, now I want to do this, and like that's kind of the way that it is. I mean, that's the beauty of goal setting is that the minute that you hit a goal, you're all of a sudden not satisfied and have set another goal. It's kind of how we work as just weird human beings.
true. Are there goals that? So what are the goals for the Personal Trainer Development Center? I know you said you have 3 businesses now. What are your? Do you have goals for them, or are you just kind of like trying to do your best and just work and give you like working on things that you're passionate about and things you enjoy, as opposed to I have this goal and I want to get to the mountaintop?
Well, the goal is to get Ignite the Fire in the hands of every single personal trainer on the planet. That's the lofty goal. Beyond that, there aren't really goals. I mean, everything's rocking and rolling really well. Everything's growing. We've got things in place so that things grow organically at this absurd rate. I mean, if you tell anybody in any kind of a business if you tell anybody in an internet business at the state of growth, they're probably going to be pretty amazed. But if you tell anybody who's not in an internet business at like how many new leads are coming into the pipeline a day, they're going to be like, how the fuck are you doing that? And it's not like us pushing and pushing, it's just the amount of good work that we produced over a series of years. And it's little things like what Nick alluded to of just remembering somebody's name. I mean, it's not hard, but it's those little things added up over time that have disproportionately large effects. In terms of my personal goals, I mean, I like this vironomic stuff quite a bit. I've got a book coming out on that. That's kind of what I'm playing around with a lot. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm kind of following the Neil Gaiman law, which is if you do something for money and it fails, you have nothing. But if you do something for yourself and it fails, you still have whatever you did.
Yeah.
And I'm just having fun with this book. Like, I'm hiring a cartoonist. We're gonna make it just like I mean, the book itself is amazing. I'm so happy with the content of it, but reading the book is going to be just as much as an adventure as the book itself. And that stuff's fun for me. Like, I don't really care if I make money off of it, and that's the coolest part.
I think that's what a lot of people kind of forget. That's like I have so much fun with the podcast. I don't care. Like, it all comes out of my pocket to pay for the servicing and web hosting and all. I don't care. It's fun. I love talking to people like you and all the other trainers and coaches I've had on. And I think that's a good point, that we always are looking to make money and we just forget to have fun. And I that's pretty indicative of where I come from, being a theater major. Everyone goes to school and they're like, I want to be Kevin Spacey. I want to be Jim Carrey. I want to make $20 million a film. And I'm like, dude, you're going to make $20 a show in New York City while living with 6 people in a room the size of like your freshman dorm. Like, you know, do art because you love it and you want to pursue it. Don't do it because you think you're going to become a millionaire.
I agree with that, but I also think that, I mean, somebody needs to have their baseline of needs taken care of, and if they have any dependents, then they need to be taken care of. And so then it's in order to achieve that level of satisfaction and appreciation of the pace of one's life, I think that somebody needs to say, okay, what are the highest yield activities that I can do to hit my baseline of income that I need to hit? Do that. Even if you don't particularly enjoy that, if that allows you to enjoy your art, then that's what you need to do, is how can I make the most amount of money in the least amount of time to hit this dollar amount that I have to hit each month.
Yeah.
And that will allow me now to be free with whatever it is that's my art. If your art is the same thing and it's making you that amount of money, great. But it's not necessarily always like that.
True. And I think for at least I know for me, and you do cover this in the book as well, that a lot of times when you're new to training, you get really awkward asking for money. Like, as soon as it comes down to, this is what you have to pay me, you know, and you're pretty adamant in the book about, you know, just be straightforward and lay out, you know, that this is what they're getting and provide the service and go above and beyond so that they know they're not just getting some random dude they're paying money to who doesn't remember their name.
Yeah, it's how do you differentiate yourself from everybody else out there and differentiate yourself from the persuasive media that's out there as well, that's also competing for their attention, and it's the only way to do it is to listen to them, figure out what their emotional reasons for being at the other side of the table with you are, and then being able to say, okay, this is everything that I can do. What is specific to what you want to achieve? If you want to get ripped, why do you care that I'm a specialist in knee rehab? I mean, that doesn't matter to you. And so what is it that I can do? What's my experience, my education, whatever, that specifically pertains to specifically what you want to achieve and the emotional reasons why you want to achieve it? And that's what's going to set me apart from anybody else and make you want to work with me versus anybody else.
True. So Jon, you've been a personal trainer for years, and now you kind of travel the world and do your thing online. what has changed? What have you seen change in the fitness industry, and how has your view on it changed? And does your training change? Like, when you're on the road, are you doing the same stuff? Are you more like body weight, or do what does that look like for you now?
My training is more plain. I just, wherever I am, I mean, especially when I'm traveling, what I do is I use whatever's around me, and I use exercise as a chance to explore whatever's around me. So if I'm close to a mountain, my exercise will be walking up and down the mountain. If I'm close to a place that's really cool to bike around, I'll rent mountain bikes and bike around it. If there's a boardwalk and some of that like outdoor workout equipment or something that's set up like playground type workout thing, then I'll go for a jog and I'll play around on that. It's just a really good opportunity to kind of explore whatever's there. When I lived on a beach at a off-the-grid, eco-sustainable home 4 hours up the coast in Uruguay in the middle of nowhere for a month, and I'd go running on the beach, and what I saw one day when I was running is beside the lifeguard station, they had set up a little chin-up bar. And so I communicated to them in my caveman Spanish that I'd like to do chin-ups on their bar. And like that was my workout. Was I'd run, I'd do body weight stuff, I'd use their chin-up bar, and it was amazing. And so that's kind of what I do for exercise now. When I'm home, like where I am now, I've got a weight set outside. Yeah, I'll throw up and down some weights, mostly biceps.
I like it. Curls for days. Curls for days.
Oh yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that you're going to be traveling to Europe and possibly Costa Rica for the winter. But I've seen some posts that you put up on Instagram of places you stay, and I know everyone in the world wants to know, where do you find these places? Like, what are the best travel sites that you find to book these places that maybe people don't know about?
It's mostly Airbnb, to be honest. Airbnb, what we'll usually do if we know that we're going to be a place for a while, we'll book a place for 3 or 4 nights, and then we'll kind of cruise around and try to find a place from there. And oftentimes the place that we find is on Airbnb, but it's easier if we actually go see it. So in Thailand, like, we booked a place for a couple weeks, and then we got on scooters and motorbikes and just kind of bumped around the island and found the nicest places. And rented those, and you can almost always, especially in like South America and Asian stuff, if you have US dollars cash, you can almost always negotiate a pretty good rate.
Yeah.
And so we do that. I don't know. Yeah, Airbnb is most of it. It's pretty good. You can pretty much find anything there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best sites. I know my wife and I used it when we went to Scotland on our honeymoon for a couple of places, and we got breakfast, and like it was like a breakfast buffet. To be honest, it was awesome.
Yeah. We found some absolutely killer places. One of the things, here's a little travel hack for you, because everybody loves hacks these days, hacking everything.
Yeah.
It's funny, I kind of look at hacks as I do as like people who call themselves thought leaders. It's like the minute somebody says hack or they call themselves a thought leader, I'm like, I'm just going to walk away and not listen to you. Here's a travel hack for you. Is when we did 2 road trips across the United States and Canada this past winter, equaling in total about 70 days. We hit 16 national parks. And one of the things that we did is if we knew where we were going to be the next day, we'd actually go on Groupon the day before for that town. And
Nice.
We would find some just incredible deals. Like we stayed in just like bomb hotel rooms for like $20 a night.
Wow.
A couple of times. I mean, you won't always find something, but we found some of the most incredible places for dirt cheap by doing that. That really only works in North America, but is an option.
That's
Especially
actually,
if you don't care where you stay. Like, you want to be like downtown.
yeah. Groupon has some. That's a good point. They have some stuff. If you search locally, you just find random places sometimes that actually are really nice.
Yeah, and you can often find like massages and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? All right, so
We did that a couple times. If we knew we wanted to go for dinner, but we didn't really care where, we just searched Groupon for the town we were going to the next night, and we'd find one for a restaurant, and it would have like $20 off if you spend $50. We're like, all right.
$30 for a meal. Why not? So a couple of fun questions before I go into a couple other ones. Now, I know you said you kind of work out with whatever you have available. Do you listen to music while you work out?
Sometimes. Depends what
Okay.
kind of headspace I'm in. If I'm in a good headspace, no. If I'm not in a good headspace, i.e. I'm just mind fucked by something that I'm doing with work, I need to use music to get me out of it.
Okay. Do you have a guilty pleasure track on your workout mix that you would shamefully admit to others you listen to?
Oh, it's all Eminem.
Nothing wrong with Eminem. That's my get
Eminem
pumped
is
deadlift music.
Yeah, Eminem. There's some I really like DJ mixes and stuff like that. So I've got some of the Tomorrowland soundtracks, some of the yearly Tomorrowland stuff on there. Yeah, and then I just like old school hip hop. I've got hundreds of songs on there. I like just jamming to that. Usually not working out, but just generally if I'm riding a bus or something, I'll usually be jamming to old school hip hop.
Okay. If you could be any superhero, what superhero would you be?
Nightcrawler. I don't know why. I've just always liked it. There's no reason. Don't ask me to follow up.
That's awesome. You're the first person to not answer Batman in like 6 weeks. Yeah. Nightcrawler is a badass character.
I have no idea why. It's just you like always connect with certain characters. I think I've always connected. If I look back at who I've always connected with in like TV shows and video games and stuff like that, it's always been like the quiet, nerdy character. So it was the Blue Power Ranger, it was Donatello. It was never the leader, it was always the guy behind the scenes who was just like smarter than anybody else. And so maybe that's why.
Not a lot of people connected with Donatello or the Blue Ranger. I always felt bad for Billy because it was like, oh, poor smart guy. They just go to him to like fix their stuff. Yeah,
except now if you look at take a look at where all of the Power Rangers have ended up. They're all fucked up other than Billy.
Oh, yeah.
Look at it, like every single one. Like the Black Power Ranger like killed somebody, the Pink Power Ranger like did porn. I mean, it's just like, but the blue one is still like he's just a normal dude. I don't think that like he actually killed somebody who did porn, but they're all messed up in some way if you actually go and look at it. Except for the Blue Power Ranger who's actually doing okay. So there you go.
There you go. The quiet ones are the ones not doing the crazy stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, because nobody, I guess, paid it. Like the Red Power Ranger, like he was an all-star when he was young, and I mean that's like the Macaulay Culkin syndrome, right? And the Blue Power Ranger was just like he could walk down the street and nobody knew who he was, so he just always lived a normal life. I mean,
just blending in.
Exactly.
So I wanted to ask about books, and this is sort of a fun question, I guess. But in your audiobook, which I really enjoyed, so thank you for putting that out there. For someone who's new, and with Ignite the Fire, both of those combined, it gave me a lot of confidence and good tips to get out there.
You're not talking about the Ignite audiobook. You're talking the From Cert to Qual certification.
Yes, from Cert. Yeah,
right. That's an audio course.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
An audio course.
I mean it's because when you say audiobook, the Ignite the Fire audiobook just did finally come out. Audible hates
Canadians.
It did. Yeah, Audible hates Canadians so much. It took like 3 months.
I saw the other day you were number 2, like right behind Grain Brain, and I wanted to be like, no, good stuff should be number 1. Get that Grain Brain stuff out of here.
Yeah, that guy sells a lot of books. I hate it. I hate it.
But you mentioned some really great books.
I'm not number 2 anymore. I mean, it was number 2 the first 4 or 5 days it came out, but it's for any kind of a niche book. I mean, there's no chance to be on the charts long term. It's just not going to happen. If I wrote a book of like how to get a sexy six-pack by eating no gluten in a paleo diet like your ancestors, then maybe I could make up a bunch of stuff like everybody else and get a bestseller. But
true. Or I guess for some of the people out there with flexible dieting, they really just need to be like how to eat Ben and Jerry's and get a six-pack. I mean, you
just have to bastardize science and create a false narrative. It's really not that difficult.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And use a lot of fear.
Well, I mean, that goes without saying. But then you end up like the Red Power Ranger somehow.
Where everyone in the fitness industry, a lot of the people like that were there at the summit are sort of like Blue Rangers, man. Nobody pays attention to us. We're just out there trying to do good work, but all the Red Rangers out there,
right. and look at us in 20 years, and like you might be the man now and like make all the money and like get all the women now, but like 20 years from now we're not going to be fucked up and you are. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it depends what you want. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
yeah.
I played the long game. It's my excuse.
uh, so you mentioned some great books in the audio course, and I'll link
This
all
is
of them
such like a
here.
back patting thing. It's like, yeah, man, you're doing okay.
Well, sometimes that's what you got to do because it's.
Right.
I was talking with someone the other day, and I was like, it sucked. I went to a bookstore, and I just for shits and giggles went over to Fitness and Nutrition,
Oh,
and
you
there's
don't do
one
that.
copy of like, oh no, because I knew I was going to laugh. One
Yeah, you
copy
don't
of
do
like
that.
Georgie Fear's new book, and there's grain brain and paleo shit, and
Yeah.
you know all this crazy stuff, like multiple copies. It's just
Look at it this way. The There are two very distinct industries. One is selling books and one is changing lives. And they are
yeah,
very distinct industries. And there is nothing wrong with either one. And I know both of them reasonably well. If you sell books, you are forced to sell somebody on a dream based off of fear and emotion, based off of these sensationalistic promises. And like this is from a publisher's point of view, not a writer's point of view.
right,
And you need people to buy multiple books. How do you get people to buy multiple books? You get them dreaming. Because the act of dreaming gives you shots of dopamine. It's a physiological benefit. And it makes you crave more. And the act of actually following through is inherently painful. But the act of dreaming is pleasurable. And so you
right.
become addicted to this act of dreaming, i.e. buying more books, i.e. supporting the publishers more. It's completely different businesses. And I mean, I think that just needs to be understood a little bit better. Is all. I mean, really, how many fitness books do you need? You need one.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the thing is like you look at all the coaches out there and all the trainers, like we're all saying the same thing. We're just saying it in a different way. You know,
Sure.
it's uh it is what it is. But speaking of books, I wanted to ask this because I really wanted to find out. So like I said, you mentioned some great books in the audio course, like Dan John, the cardio or weights
Hmm.
book that I mentioned earlier, along with some other ones, Max Muscle Plan, Starting Strength, and I'll
Yeah.
tag all these for listeners in links in the show notes. But I wanted to know
I've actually never
what
read
three books
Starting
that
Strength. True story.
you're not the first person to say that actually,
Yeah, I've
but
never.
it's yeah. But what three books that are not fitness or business did you want to include, or would you like to include if you could make an addendum? Any type of book
Oh,
that you
I
think
love
people, all everyone should read.
Dave Eggers. Dave Egger, I really like as an author. What
Okay.
is the what? What is the what is the name of the book. One of the most special books I've read. Of really of anything. Really, really great book. I like a Japanese author by the name of Haruki Murakami. Murakami. I really like his work as well. It's all translated to English. I mean, he's a very famous author. It's translated into probably 20 or so languages. Um, I've quoted him a number of times. I'm trying to remember which of his books was I particularly liked, or what's a good introduction to his work. I'll send you a link to it afterwards. I can't remember the name
Okay.
offhand. A third one, there's a really cool one. It's called S, is the name of the book, and it's by J.J. Abrams, yeah, the movie producer J.J. Abrams, and a guy named Dorst. I can't remember his first name, but it is the most interesting. If you love books, it is one of the most interesting books you will ever read. It is the book itself is this piece of art. It's this like crazy old school looking library book. And it comes all wrapped up because the story is there's the story from the book and then there's the story of the author of that wrote this fictional book of like the
Okay.
secret society that he's a part of, and then there's another story of two students at the university who are writing to each other in the margins of the library book as they seek out this guy's life and try to figure out who the author of this fictional book is. And like it's insane how this thing is put together. All throughout the book, like one of the characters goes away to Brazil, and all of a sudden there's a postcard from Brazil that falls out of the book that one of the characters wrote to the other character.
That's
There's a
awesome.
map written on a napkin from the fictional university that they go to, telling where they're going to meet. That's put into the pages of the book. It's the most interesting piece of art as a book you will ever see. It is wild. Wild. Like it'll take you like 2 months to read because it's like 5 books in one. But you'll look at this thing and you'll just be like, how much goddamn work was it to put this thing together? I can't even comprehend.
I can't imagine that either. Like that, I
It's
honestly
crazy.
now have a feeling that that sounds like something that would later turn into a film because Abrams could do like a three-part, like Back to the Future, kind of like supposed to be one film, but is separate into three.
And
Um,
if you look at like the Amazon page, you look at the film trailer for the book, it's of course like the best film trailer ever.
yeah, I might have to actually buy that. That sounds
It's
really,
crazy, man.
really
Just
intriguing.
just even if you don't read it, just to look at how it's done and just to
Yeah,
have it sit on your shelf,
yeah.
it's a really, really cool piece of art.
Cool. Well, I got a couple more, but I want to touch on a question. So you're a pretty busy guy, and you travel a lot, and you're working three businesses and creating content and doing that. So how do you break down time like for work time, social time, lady time, and then John time? Like what? How do you schedule your day?
I'm actually not very busy at all. I mean, I'm not. I I have as much time as I'd ever need for things that I feel are important, and no time for things that I aren't, that I don't. And I think that, I mean, how do I schedule time? I'm not even going to really answer that because I don't have a system for scheduling time. I think that time efficiency hacks, I think that productivity hacks and that kind of thing, I don't do any of it. I don't have a strict schedule that I abide by beyond like 30 minutes minimum on something proactive every day.
Yeah.
It's more, I just have a very clear view on what I think is important and what I don't. To the point where my admin, uh, he's told that I never see people who message me like, hey, I have an opportunity for you, or I want to partner on this. I never see it because he's just told I'm not interested in any of it.
Yeah.
And he responds back to anybody who messages, just says John's not available to discuss anything like this. And and that's how I'm able to do it. I mean, I know exactly what it is that I want to work on and that I want to move forward and what is important to me. I mean, my viewpoint is nothing that anybody else brings to my table is as important as the stuff that I'm doing. And everything's going to take away from the time I'm doing and so there's no there's no way that I set up my day. It's more so taking a step back and saying, what is it that I need to spend my time on, and how can I eliminate everything else in my life?
I think that's a very good point. I think too many of us are we're so driven and we do so much that we forget the things that are important.
Sure.
Um, and I have been told by someone who's very important to me that I need to pay more attention.
Absolutely.
um, but it's true because you don't need to answer emails immediately. You want people to know that you care and you want to go that extra mile. But you're right. They also need to know that you know these things are important to you and that you can't. There's no wavering.
Sure.
You know.
And if you there, I mean, think of what it communicates when you answer somebody's email every minute, right? You're like, yeah, I have no time, I have free time, like, right? Like, it doesn't communicate what you want to communicate. There's something to be said for making yourself a little bit more scarce and then all of a sudden appearing.
Yeah.
So last week I put out a message to my email list saying, hey, you know what? I just finished a couple big projects. I've got a couple weeks before I put on another project. I want to talk to you. I've opened up 80 spots in my schedule for 15-minute talks. Here's a link. I send out a link for them to schedule themselves in. Within 18 minutes, all 80 spots were taken. I opened up 40 more. Within 15 minutes, all 40 were taken. And so now I have 120 15-minute calls with readers of my site one-on-one. This was the first week that I started them. I've got them for the next 2 weeks. And I don't do this often, but when I do it, I feel like it should be impactful. And it goes back to the same. I guess this is kind of the theme of the talk is what can you do that has disproportionately positive effects? And if you answer emails right away every single time, it's not going to do that. If you wait to answer emails and do them all at once and put your focus into it and give a really awesome answer to that email, even if it takes you an extra 4 days to get back, that's going to have more of an effect. And the same thing, if you can connect with people one-on-one in a time when you can do it in a way that's really special, like I'll call you anywhere in the world. You know how easy it is? Time trade, $49 a year. I create an appointment 9 to 11 every single day, break them up into 8 15-minute slots. I send out the link, people book in. I say, give me your phone number. I put $60, $70 in my Skype account. I call their phone number from my Skype account. Anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't cost much money.
Yeah. You're right. Sorry, I don't know where to go with that.
Well,
no, because it's like for you to do that,
nobody does.
Yeah, it is. It's like it blows my mind because you were literally just like, all right, let's do this 15 minutes. Like not a lot of people do that, but you're right. Sort of finding that time and not answering the emails immediately and being able to give your best instead of just because if people think that you're available all the time, they may just completely take up all your time. The more scarce you make yourself, the more valuable you seem.
Well, and look at the example with you. So we met at the fitness summit and we hung out there and it was all fun and we high-fived and that was cool. And then you asked me if I wanted to be on the podcast there and I said maybe at one point. I'm really jammed now. You tweeted to me at one point and I responded back and said, hey, I've got some time coming up in the next few weeks. Let's do the podcast. This is like how many months later? Like 4 months later. Yeah. Right? You message back to me. I take 2 weeks to get back to you, and I'm like, I'm available in the next couple of days. Let's do it. How much more do you value the fact that I'm able to talk to you now for no other reason than it was a little bit, I wouldn't say a little bit harder, but there was that little bit of kind of a scarcity element. But it wasn't that I made you chase after me. It was just like, hey, I'll reach out to you when I have a little bit of time to do it, and I did.
Yeah.
And that to me is valuable. It's not making yourself open all of the time, but is saying, hey, when I have time, I'm going to take advantage of it. So you know what? Yeah, these couple weeks, I'm going to get on the phone with a lot of people. I'm going to take, like yesterday, I took 5 hours responding to messages. Because I have time to do it now, but I didn't respond to messages for 3 weeks before that.
And I think that's what I know. I struggle with that because I'm like, no, I got to answer them. They got to know that I care. Because you want like we were talking earlier. You want to go above and beyond, but you can't forget about your own life. And I think sometimes as coaches, and that's a mistake we even make as trainers and in gyms, like we forget about our own lives. Sure. And we have to live our own lives, and it's something I struggle with because my idea for tomorrow was to sit here and play video games all day, but I'm like, no, I got things I got to work on. I got to do this. I got to do that. And then a part of my brain is like, no, why don't you go get out and like get away from everything like you have swore you were going to do all summer?
What's valuable, right? I mean, what's valuable to yourself? If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people. It's as simple as that. Yep. And so, maybe that means that you're going to take an afternoon off. I took yesterday. I was feeling just brain dead. There's a little beach by us. I went to the little beach. I shut off. I napped on the beach for 30 minutes. I came back and I kicked it. I mean, you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so I just got 2 more questions. I got one more from a fellow trainer that wanted to get a question in, and then I got one fun one to take the show out with. So Dan Heckler, I met him a couple weeks ago in Boston when I was at AMP getting a good Friday workout in there. And he wanted to know what do you think was your biggest mistake that you made in your professional career, and what did you learn from it?
I wouldn't say that there were any like distinct mistakes that I made. I mean, there's been a lot of things that I've done that haven't come to fruition, or that I look back and I'm like, that was really stupid. I did that. Of course. I do believe that like every 6 months you should look back and say I was an idiot 6 months ago. I think if you don't do that, then you're a serious problem. But I think if there's one thing that, looking back, like knowing what I know now when I started, I think I would have started to create intellectual property earlier. I think that every trainer, no matter how new, should be creating intellectual property and should be creating documentation around themselves. And so every workout that you build, take the extra 10 minutes and template that workout. And say, okay, for every exercise that's... First of all, who is this workout for? Okay, so this workout's for like a 20-year-old dude who wants to put on muscle. Who could this workout also potentially be for? Yeah. This workout could be for any 18 to 25-year-old males who want to put on muscle with no serious injuries. Okay, fine. Now, I have this workout. I'm going to take a step back, and I'm going to find at least one regression and progression for each exercise. I'm also going to try to identify proactively some problems that might come up. Okay, I've got a bench press for exercise 2B. Well, somebody might have a bit of impingement in their shoulder. They might have a bit of pain while bench pressing. Exercise 2B, well, maybe I could slip in an incline neutral grip dumbbell press with that, take a little bit of stress off of the shoulder. Right? And so you take that extra time and you build that workout out as a template, and it's just going to make your life that much easier. You can also sell that template down the road if you want to as like an ebook or something like that, but then as you start building out workouts for other people, you kind of figure out and continually get better at building out these templates of what works best. And then you individualize the templates. And then build documentation around yourself. Everything you do, write down exactly what you do. It's as freaking simple as that. Like, did you just answer an email to a question? Take the extra 2 minutes, formulate that email into a templated answer, put that as an FAQ. Now, the same time somebody answers you that question, copy, paste. Right? And you do that, and all of a sudden now what you can do with all of these pieces of documentation is you can get somebody else to manage parts of your life that you don't want to deal with or you're not very good at dealing with. Or what you can also do is you can take that entire FAQ and you can turn it into a book. That's what I did.
Yeah.
The Personal Trainer Pocket Book. That book was my FAQ. For 3 years, I answered questions from trainers. Every question that came in, I wrote an answer to them. That I wrote a really detailed answer to that question as a template. And I created this massive document. And when I figured out, or when I thought that I had every single question answered that any trainer could ever ask, I sent it to my editor, and we put together a book on it. We printed the book and published the book. And now I have an asset that passively generates income from it. So I think I would have started creating intellectual property a lot earlier around every single thing that I did.
That's actually a very good point. I keep almost everything I send to people just to see how it works, because having that template there is good when you need a resource to get to, because you don't have to individualize every single thing for everyone. You might have an 18 you might have a range of people that are, they don't have any injuries, and that can work for them, for their goals.
With templating workouts. I mean, if you have something that works best for a specific type of client, why would you not give that workout that you feel is the best workout to a similar client and then just individualize it based on their specific needs? It seems silly to write something, when you already have something that you consider to be the best for that person, it seems silly to write something else from scratch. And that template of yours, as you get better, will change.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that you need to write everything from scratch. Absolutely not. I mean, I've gotten some flack for recommending templates, but every single successful trainer that I know that's experienced uses templates in some way, and they'll be the first to tell you that.
Yeah.
It's the new trainer that is all holier than thou and thinks that they know everything, that gives me crap for it. They're like, John recommends templates, and he can't be good, and that's not what clients are paying you for. No, clients aren't paying you for the workout. Clients can get a workout from any magazine on the shelf for $9.
Bodybuilding.com.
Clients aren't paying you for a workout. Clients are paying you to individualize that workout, make it specific to them, and make them want to do it.
Yep.
That's what they're paying you for.
True. All right, last question, and then we'll wrap down the show. So I stole this one from Tim Ferriss, but I love it, and I've got some really great answers. If you could have dinner with anyone in history, who would it be?
Ken Griffey Jr. Sweetest swing in baseball, man. Sweetest freaking swing in baseball.
Yeah. Man, he was, whoo! And one of the best NES baseball games ever, just saying.
I I mean, oh my God, the best NES games, period.
Oh my God.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Time.
Oh, Turtles in Time.
That game was sweet.
So
I mean, you put me on the spot. I'm sure that I could give a more intelligent answer, but I think from an exercise sports buff perspective,
yeah.
Ken Griffey Jr. would be a fascinating person to speak to just because he was in the midst of the steroid scandal in baseball. And he was hitting home runs, I mean, not to the same extent as those guys were, but he was knocking them out of the park at the same time as everybody was that was taking steroids. By all accounts, he was not on steroids. I mean, it seems like he wasn't in any way. And I'm sure that there were pressures to do it, and I'm sure his career would have been better if he did. You know, he probably would have set records. He probably would not have had the injury problems that he had. And so I think he would be a very fascinating person to speak to for that reason. Also the fact that he's got the sweetest swing in baseball.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. He didn't get bigger. He didn't get. It's not like Mark McGwire when McGwire came in, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, you are on something.
Well, sure.
And yeah, but he did. He had a beautiful swing. And I argue that he probably had a better career because I don't think Barry Bonds ever had a video game, and Mark McGwire didn't have a video game that I would still go back and play.
And he hit a lot more home runs, and I mean, Griffey never won a championship. And he had a lot of injury problems. I mean, a lot of the guys who take steroids in professional sports, baseball is a bit of an outlier, but a lot of the guys who take steroids in sports, it's not to get stronger, it's to recover quicker.
Yeah.
It's because the seasons are so abusive on their bodies that they're just constantly injured. And so Griffey was constantly injured. I mean, he had a lot of stuff going on, and that shortened his career, and it would be interesting to hear him talk about like why he never did, and from his perspective.
I would definitely watch that ESPN 30 for 30,
Yeah.
which I'm surprised they haven't done one on him yet, because he really he was the star baseball guy, in the early 90s, and then you had the strike, and then the steroids guys got popular after the strike. So
yeah. I mean, he's kind of. I followed him a little bit. Like, he's opening up like car dealerships and stuff now. He's a family man. I mean, it's funny because he was the kid. I mean, he was like the all-star. He was the guy in the spotlight. But ever since he retired, he kind of has stepped away completely from the spotlight. He doesn't seem like he has any interest. He wants to play golf and spend time with his family and operate his businesses. And that's probably why they haven't. I mean, he's kind of just gone now.
Yeah, true. He's not Neon Dion,
Sure.
And, well, I mean, your name was Neon Dion. You don't really disappear if that was like the name you went by when you played. All right. Well, Jon, I've had an amazing time. Thank you so much for coming on. It has been an amazing 50-episode run, and I'm really excited that you were my 50th guest on the show.
Wait, we need the party hat again.
Party hat!
I'm putting my party hat on.
Party hat! People want to know more about you and more about the Personal Trainer Development Center. Where can they find out more online, and where can they pick up your book, your audio course, and anything else news related to when you launch a new product?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing is go to the Personal Trainer Development Center website. It's the PTDC with the THE before it, because we're not the Pakistani Tourism Development Center. And go to theptdc.com. I mean, the books and all the products and the audio course and stuff like that, there's a products tab. I mean, all the books are on Amazon and stuff like that. Yeah, that's you can find anything about me there.
Awesome. Well, Jon, thank you and the party hat for coming on the show. It has been a great time. So guys, head over. All the links that we mentioned for all the books and all the things in the show will be in the show notes. So head over there and check out those as well. Head over to the Personal Trainer Development Center and get some knowledge bombs in your life, because there's a lot over there. And pick up Jon's book if you're a trainer and new to get into personal training. It is a fantastic read and a must-have for anyone looking to get into the fitness industry. So, Jon, thank you so much again.
Thank you.